What's going on, guys? This is DaWoblefet, and this is round 2 of the Swiss rounds for the North American qualifier for Players Cup 4. Unfortunately, I started recording this match a little bit later, so I don't have the team preview from Game 1, so you'll just have to make do with the open team sheet screenshot that you see on your screen. So if you are familiar with Series 9, or if you watched my team builder video, then you'll recognize this team because this is the team that Marco Fierro used along with Dynamoon to make second and top 4 at the Smoke on VGC Tour. So my opponent here is Will Scully, who goes by the name AllySwitchIsPain, who I can very much agree with that. AllySwitch definitely is a big pain, annoying to deal with. But I do know this matchup a little bit. I've played it a couple times on ladder. I've got some idea of what I want to do versus it. Basically, the general idea is it's a Landorus matchup. It's basically who can get their Landorus going first. Because my team doesn't do very well against Tapu Fini, but it does well versus everything else. Or Landorus does well versus everything else, and then I can just bring a Lucky to help with the Tapu Fini. Clefairy support is really nice. It means I can get a more free Sword Stance, or I can do something like a Helping Hand Max Airstream. So I've got a lot of options. And so in Game 1, I decide to go with my Clefairy and Landorus as a lead, with Regieleki and Registeel in the back. Registeel is nice because it can end game pretty well against stuff like Incineroar, Kartana. It's okay versus Urshifu as well. My opponent just leads Genies into me. That's fine. I know this well enough that I know. So I have, like, one of the options you might consider here is something like, for example, a Follow Me Sword Stance. But that actually isn't good for me. And the reason why is because they will also Sword Stance here. They typically Sword Stance in this position. So they'll get the attack advantage, and that's not good for me. So my opponent switches out their Thundurus into Incineroar, which is actually really nice. It means that my opponent will not be able to taunt my Clefairy, which means I'm going to get a Helping Hand attack next turn. And so I go ahead and just max. I believe I have forgotten already who went first with the Intimidates. I think mine went first. No, his Intimidate went first. And so I know that he's at least my speed. He could be faster. And so I go for the Helping Hand. And since they didn't max, that's great. That means I'm going to do about like 80% damage to their Lando, and next turn I'll put him in KO range with another Airstream. Except I hit a critical hit on the Landorus. And I'm like, oh, well, that's good. Yeah, that's a really nice turn 1 for me. I get a knockout on the most threatening Pokemon to my team. And I took no damage for that. Well, except for like Life Orb, but you know, it hardly counts. So I'm at -2, which isn't, you know, like ideal or anything. So they're probably going to go into like, so I expect them, okay, they're going to go into like Tapu Fini. They probably didn't bring Kartana because typically when I fought against this in practice, they didn't bring both Landorus and Kartana. It's usually just one, maybe maxed one, and then you try to give boost to Fini. You always bring Fini versus me, so I'm like, okay, they're going to go Fini here. But that's not the worst thing in the world because I know they have Thundurus in the back, and so my Regieleki is looking really nice. My Registeel is also looking pretty okay too. Registeel is going to be good versus the Incineroar, and it's neutral versus the other two. Tapu Fini is definitely the thing I have to worry about the most here. So my opponent's taking a lot of time to think about what they're going to send in, and then they send back in Thundurus, and I'm like, okay, so maybe they don't have Tapu Fini. So if their Incineroar is Shuka Berry, if it wasn't Shuka Berry, then I could just Helping Hand and Max Quake and kill it. But I can also just knock out this Thundurus. This Thundurus, as we saw from the open team sheet, doesn't have Protect. It's running Thunderbolt, Eerie Impulse, Taunt, and Scary Face. So that means I am able to go for a Helping Hand Max Rock and knock out the Thundurus. Even if, actually, I got it. Maybe if it's like a lot more defensive, it may be able to live this, but I'm pretty sure that this just straight up knocks out Thundurus without any trouble at all. And so I'm able to just pick up a clean KO. If they hard switch into whatever they have in the back, like they had like Kartana or Shifu, and they switch into Max Rock, that's really not that bad for me because I have an Airstream boost. And they didn't really gain much from just switching out Thunderous immediately. So I take a nice knockout on the Thunderous, and the Incineroar goes for parting shot. So my Lando is going to be at -4 at the end of this. But I took 2 KOs with 2 Dynamax turns. I can't ask for much more than that. I'm also going to be able to put a speed boost on whatever I want. I've got, like I say, Regieleki in the back. And so I'm not really sure what they have, but they do switch in the Tapu Fini, and so I'm like, okay. So they were just trying to keep it really, really safe. They didn't want to take a boosted hit from my Tapu Fini. That makes sense. Or excuse me, from my Landorus. They don't want to take the even at -2, like a Helping Hand, Max Quake or Max Fly would do a sizable chunk to Tapu Fini, put it into KO range of Regieleki. So smart play for my opponent there to not just go straight for that. And now I've got a... No, that was looking pretty good. I've got Regieleki in the back. Regielecky's going to be able to knock out this Tapu Fini. I don't have a great way to easily bring it in. My opponent is almost certainly going to go for Calm Mind. I'm not inclined to read that at this point. I don't think I need to risk, like, you know, going hard Regieleki on a Calm Mind or something like that, although that would be epic. So at this point, I know my opponent has Incineroar, and they've got to switch that in, so I know that they're thinking at this point. So they are... So this is one of the downsides of taking a lot of time with thinking. So normally I'm a big proponent of that. I do this all the time. You'll see me do this several times throughout my Swiss run. Not only in general for timer stalling, because sometimes I do it just because I want to timer stall my opponent, but a lot of times I do it just because I want to think. I want to try to think, okay, what is my possible way out of this situation? And I know that my opponent, by doing that, they're really, really thinking hard about how to possibly win this, but I'm in the driver's seat. I'm going to go ahead and just give my Registeel a speed boost. Incineroar can't do very much damage to either Clefairy or my Landorus. It doesn't really need to go for a fake out. You can go for another parting shot, but that doesn't really get you much either. So I expect a Flare Blitz here onto either slot, but I don't really care about Flare Blitz damage on either my Landorus or my Registeel at this point in time. And so you can see Max Airstream still does a decent chunk to the Incineroar. After sand damage, that'll probably put it into KO range. And if it uses Flare Blitz, it'll definitely put itself into KO range. The Tapu Fini goes for Calm Mind. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's what he's going to try to do. He's going to Calm Mind, he's going to try to max this Fini, and he's going to try to do something with that. Which is honestly not that bad of a strategy. My Regieleki is going to do a lot of damage to him, but I'm not just going to like one-shot him or anything. So I've got to be careful with how I play this endgame. He is at +1, so got to be careful with that. But the Incineroar is now in KO range of Body Press, which is very nice. My Lando's at -4. It's not doing anything on the field right now. I could go for Rock Slide and try to flinch him, but there's not really too much of a reason to try to do that. Especially since it could be awkward. If they max their Fini like right now, and knock out my Lando, then I wouldn't have like Regieleki plus Clef. And that's what I really want. I really want to have both of those on the field at the same time. I want to, because if I have that, then I can go for like Helping Hand, or I can go for Follow Me. Both of those are really good. So I'm going to go ahead and just knock out this Incineroar, prevent it from doing anything else. And by switching into my Clefairy here, that guarantees that the Registeel is unable to, it's not going to knock my Lando, they're not going to predict me and Moonblast my Regieleki. I need to make sure my Regieleki stays healthy, so I'm going to go ahead and just switch into my my Clefairy and take the knockout Incineroar. The Tapu Fini is at +2 special defense, which is kind of worrying. It means my Thunderbolt definitely isn't going to be knocking him out straight away. But I've got so many Pokemon that I'm not too worried about that. I've got Thunderbolt, and then I've also got a Quake. So I've got a few options. Also, my opponent's Misty Terrain is only going to be around for a limited number of turns. So I've got really not much to do here. I don't want to go for Heavy Slam because they can max at any point. So I kind of have to Iron Defense. Like I say, I don't really want to Iron Defense. I kind of would like to switch into my Tapu Fini, but I don't. I want to switch into my Regieleki, but that doesn't seem to work out either. My opponent just goes for another Calm Mind, and I'm like, you know, if you get enough of those, then I can lose, because then Muddy Water is just going to do enough as it is. And that would knock out, like if they have enough calm minds that they can just survive my Thunderbolt out of max, then I'm gonna be in a huge I'm gonna have a huge problem really quickly here. So I'm in trouble. There's really not all that much I can do. I can go for body press here, which is good. At the very least, I can punish him going for another calm mind. Helping hand body press will do about like 40% or so. Normally, like I'm pretty sure a +2 body press or like a heavy slam will do about, like I say, 30 or like probably about like 25% to Tapu Fini. That sounds a little bit more right. So it'll do about 40, and that's good. All I really need is some damage on this Tapu Fini, then I'll be okay before it maxes. It's annoying that I don't have that damage, but I didn't feel confident enough in being able to risk just going straight at for the heavy slam, because if they max, because heavy slam is a weight-based move, I would do no damage. Of course, if I had flash cannon, that wouldn't have been any better. I would have still done no damage. And Amnesia wouldn't help me either. If we tried to match Calm Mind with Amnesia's, he would win out that battle. Amnesia wouldn't help me because he'd just be able to go +6. So Sand Tomb would be very nice here, though. I would have been able to click Sand Tomb on the Tapu Fini and put some consistent chip damage on it. But now I don't have that option. Now he decides to go for the Dynamax. I'm like, oh, great. If I had gone for the Double Protect there, that would have been awesome, because then I would have wasted one of his turns with Dynamax. I would have been able to attack on this next turn, and then I would have been able to protect again. But sadly, that's not what happened, and Registeel takes a +3 Max Geyser and survives with 2 health, and I'm like, nice. If I had died there, it wouldn't have been the end of the world. I would have gotten Regieleki. I would have been able to go for Follow Me Thunderbolt. And then I would have been able to like protect EQ, or Follow Me Thunderbolt, protect EQ. Assuming they attack Aleki, then I have Thunderbolt, Rock Slide the next turn. That should be enough damage, or Thunderbolt Fly, or something like that. That'd be okay. But I survive here, which is nice. That means I'm going to be able to get off a Body Press onto the Tapu Fini. And then Misty Terrain just wore off as well. So my opponent is pretty likely, in my opinion, they're just going to want to knock out the Clefairy, I think. But if they do that, that's not the end of the world either, because then I can do like Volt Switch into Tapu Fini, and I get another Body Press off. Like they're gonna be, I'm gonna be doing some damage with Body Press, and that's really all I need to do. I just need to do some damage, and that'll be okay. And so I don't want to just let them knock out my Registeel for free. I'm going to go ahead and go for Sing, just in case they don't attack it, because if they don't, then I can win the game right there. And so they do attack my Registeel, so I'm like, great, okay. So if I hit my Sing, but this game is super over, I can just go into my Lucky, Help a Hand Thunderbolt, and that'll definitely do enough damage to put it into Earthquake Arrow range later. But my Sing avoids the Tapu Fini. I'm like, okay, I made the right play, but it still could be a little bit better, because my opponent only has 1 turn of Dynamax left, and I'm kind of in a, like I said, I'm still in a tricky situation. At this point, I'm calculating whether or not, or how much I need my Lando to do, and how much I need my Lucky to do, basically, at this point. So by going into my Lucky now, I can do a couple things. I can Follow Me in Thunderbolt. I can Helping Hand in Thunderbolt. I can do a lot of different options here. I don't remember what the best play would have been here. I think maybe Follow Me and Thunderbolt would have been the best. Definitely don't want to protect. I definitely want to attack. It's either Helping Hand or Follow Me in Thunderbolt. So what Follow Me does is then I can do like Protect Fly, and I can kind of like try to cheese him that way. Because Fly is going to do a lot of damage to the Tapu Fini, but not quite enough. I go ahead and go for just the Helping Hand and the Thunderbolt. If they knock out the Regieleki here, I get to go Lando, and I get to do like Protect, and then Fly. Yeah, I don't even have to think about that because I just crit the Tapu Fini. Oh, this poor guy. This poor guy, he did not deserve that crit. Like, honestly, that was so unfair. So again, I think I still win, because if you knock out, I go for Helping Hand Thunderbolt. If he doesn't, so he either knocks out my Fini, in which case I do, like I say, I do like Helping Hand, I do Protect Fly, Helping Hand Fly, and I do that forever. That's going to do like 80%, something like that. It's going to take him a while for him to heal back enough health with leftovers. I can just timer stall him, basically. Gives him Muddy Water, things of that nature. So I'm in the advantage, but it wasn't like over by any means. And that's something to keep in mind as well. Like I haxed him turn 1. I got a nice kill on the Lando, and then I just knocked out his Thunderous. And he managed to bring it back by using Calm Mind enough with his Tapu Fini. So even despite my really lucky start, I needed some luck there at the end to make things a lot smoother. But yeah, definitely a super, super, super lucky game. But I don't really see anything. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with my game plan. I got really lucky. Yeah, that's true. But if I were in different situations, like I would have been able to get a Thunderbolt on Tapu Fini sooner. I feel like there wasn't anything that was, like, strictly speaking, that bad about the way I played that game. Now, like, technically, I could have played better, but there are a few turns I definitely could have played better. But I was happy with the turns I made, and I got rewarded with some very, very good fortune on top of it. And now, I basically get to do the same thing in Game 2. I don't really have to adjust. I don't want to bring Moltres into this. Moltres in practice versus this didn't work out very well. The Lando, because it outspeeds, can go for Max Airstream, put their Fini faster than my Moltres, go for Calm Minds. It's just not a good look. You don't end up getting that much out of it, even though Moltres is good versus Thundurus, because the Thundurus can only Thunderbolt you, which is only a benefit to you. Nevertheless, it makes more sense to go Lando here, even with the Double Intimidate. So again, that game went out really well for me. I'm gonna stick to my game plan and just try to use Lando to break his team, and then I could use Registeel and Regieleki to clean up his remaining Pokemon. So this time my opponent leads with Landers and Tapu Fini, and that's a lot better for my opponent here. But it's not still like the best thing ever for them. I do have the option of, like, for example, Helping Hand Max Quake. I have Helping Hand Max Fly into the Tapu Fini. That would do a lot of damage to it. So they probably want to respect that. I expect the Tapu Fini to go for Protect here. I don't think it's very likely that the Tapu Fini actually attacks, because you don't want to take the damage trade on the Tapu Fini. That's not a really good trade for you. So I predict that, and I decide to go for a Sing and Swords Dance, because that's the most punishing play that I have available to me on predicting the Tapu Fini going for Protect. I expect the Lando to either SD here or itself Max Airstream. I think also they're probably learned their lesson from what happened in Game 1, and they probably want to go for the Max Airstream, so that way they can boost their Tapu Fini speed. Something like a Protected Max Airstream seems pretty likely to me. But it's not the end of the world if they do that. I can just max myself and go for Follow Me, and then I'd be able to knock out the Tapu Fini with one of my attacks. But they actually end up switching out into the Incineroar, which is probably about the same or even a little bit better for me. The Incineroar coming in, I don't max immediately, which is nice. They kind of did the same play that they did Game 1. They just really wanted to make me max. But I made a read that they wouldn't be attacking there with their Tapu Fini, and I get somewhat rewarded. Not so much, though. Their Landorus maxing here isn't good. I did go for the Sing into the Lando, so if I hit the Sing, that's going to be really good for me. They're going to be a really big disadvantage if I do hit the Sing. But it's not the end of the world if I don't. I have the option to Follow Me next turn, and then I can hit the Incineroar for a lot of damage with Max Airstream. So all in all, not terrible. I take a lot of damage from that Airstream, actually. That's Life Orb for you. Doing a lot of damage, but I will survive the next one when I max, so that's good. I go for Sing, and I do hit it, so kind of in a similar way to the first game. I get some really good fortune on turn 1. I basically take out the Landorus. The Landorus here is still alive, but putting it to sleep is super huge, because now I have just a super free Helping Hand and Max Airstream into the Incineroar. I thought it was pretty unlikely they actually brought their Thundurus to this game, because Thunderous didn't do very much in the first game. They didn't really need to Eerie Impulse anything. Like, I didn't lead with Lecky. And they led with Lando again this time, so I didn't think it was very likely that they actually brought the Thunderous, which means that I have a free Helping Hand max flying into the Incineroar. Nothing can switch in on this. Literally everything in that slot will die. There's nothing they can do. Actually, does Kartana die? I'm pretty sure it dies. But anyway. Yeah, I guess Shifu wouldn't die because it's Focus Sash, but it would still be good for me. So I Dynamax. I do have a lot less HP than them, which isn't good. But since they're sleeping, I get this guaranteed turn of sleep. They cannot attack me on this turn. They are fast asleep. But Incineroar typically aren't fast enough to outspeed Lando at +1. You can be fast enough to do that. I actually don't remember how fast it requires. Let me check that because that's interesting. You have to be at least like 96 speed, something like that, in order to be able to outspeed Lando at that kind of speed stat. But I don't think most players are inclined to do that because it's a lot of investment. Maybe not though. I don't know. People invest so much speed in their Lando nowadays. I wouldn't be surprised if you see like Jolly Lando, or not like Jolly Lando, Jolly Incineroar just running around. And so that's a pretty free knockout. My opponent has Tapu Fini and then one other Pokemon. They've already maxed, which is great. Unlike last game where I took an important KO early, but I was behind on max. I've basically done the same thing but in reverse to them. I've taken out their Dynamax, and I'm in the Dynamax advantage here. So our Landorus speed tie, we've already established that based on not only our movement order, but also Intimidate order. This is a speed tie if he does wake up, but he only has a 1 in 3 chance of waking up. And he also cannot kill me with anything. And also, even if he does wake up and go for max airstream, I already have a +1 speed boost, so the Tapu Fini cannot outspeed me. There's no way that Tapu Fini can outspeed me. So like, even if he goes for airstream, right? He wakes up and goes for airstream. Or he wakes up, wins the tie, goes for airstream. He can't kill me. So that means that I get 2 airstreams into the Tapu Fini. And the Helping Hand is all I need to put enough damage to protect. To guarantee that the next airstream will KO. And my opponent decides not to protect their Tapu Fini. So I just get a free knockout. And that should certainly be the game, because since they took their second turn of sleep there, which was their third turn of Dynamax, that means that they no longer can protect that slot. They can't max guard. They can't airstream. So pretty much anything they switch in is going to be bad for them. If they switch into their Kartana, I can just Helping Hand max fly that. That'll die. If they switch in their Thunderous like they did, there's again nothing they can do. I have a free Follow Me and max fly into the Landorus. They can't punish that. I could go for max rocket into the Thunderous as well, but max fly into the Landorus will also knock it out. And if I knock out the Landorus, then the Thunderous can't do anything to me. And so I'm like playing against it like I'm instead of Reggie or Lucky. This max flying will easily knock out Landorus. Even if it doesn't for some reason, like if they have a ton of bulk, which they don't because they're using the Marco Fierro paste pretty much verbatim. Then a Life Orb recoil from their side would also knock them out. And then I've got a Regieleki and a Registeel in the back that will win me the game. They go for Scary Face. That's why I use for Follow Me there rather than just Helping Hand. Because it covers that play where they can go for Scary Face and then go for max, and then go for like Fly, dodge my attack, and then it's like awkward because then I have to Follow Me and Rock Slide, and it's a little bit slower that way. So that pretty much covers everything. There's again not much they can do. There's literally nothing they can do about that play, and now they can't win. I just have a free Helping Hand Rock Slide. Even if they taunt and Thunderbolt my Clefairy, they can't do anything. They only got 1 hit off on me on the whole game, so definitely very lucky. Definitely very, very lucky. In game 1, I definitely hacked my opponent. It was one of those where you're in a good position, like you made the right play, and you got more than you bargained for. And then the end game was again made a lot easier by that critical hit. I think I would have won without the critical hit, but it makes it a lot easier. Don't have to rely on damage rolls. Maybe if they get multiple protects, maybe there's some misplays. The more turns that exist there, and the more opportunities I have to misplay, Just reduces the variance there. Poor Will, his name was AllySwitchIsPain. I don't know, I think maybe DaWoblefet's crit rate is pain may have been a better username for that particular battle, but nevertheless, I appreciate, if I recall correctly, I think he was very still respectful after the match ended. I'm pretty sure he said GG's in Battlefy. So mad respect for him for keeping his composure despite the unlucky performance that he received. So that's it for round 2. Stay tuned for round 3.